Hello, everyone. It is time for the live call-in SE show. I'm Quaid, or Honest Abe 42, and we got Sushi back again. Hopefully, see him a lot more in the future as well.
And we'll see. Hello, everybody. Hopefully, we have ourselves a good stream and get some good callers in here.
Yeah, and the idea is the topic today is going to be the Big Bang, though you can call in and make any claim you want, really, and we will try to SE you, which is a form of I don't know, how would you describe it? It's
It's a communication style to talk to people about their beliefs without engaging in arguing or debating. It's to understand your conversation partner's point of view and then, gently probe a little bit on the quality of reasons that they are using for that particular belief. So yeah, if you guys are interested, click on the links in the chat, or I don't know if we've posted them, Quaid, or not in the YouTube or not. But you guys can join us, and we can talk about something you believe, or if you just want to talk about street epistemology in general. Currently, we don't have any callers at this moment. If you want to find more information about street epistemology, you can go to navigatingbeliefs.com, and there's a free course that you can take. It's entirely free. It only requires an email address. They don't ask for any other personal information. So it's a great resource to learn how to talk to people about things like politics and religion without having to get your crazy uncle all stirred up.
Yeah, I actually think that I was the crazy uncle in my last during the holidays. So I had to check myself on that. Maybe we all have a little crazy uncle in us sometimes. We can allow us to be more empathetic and reach across the aisle and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I can be that quote unquote crazy person too, just for the fact that, when people present a belief that I think is questionable, I'm inclined to ask, what, why, and how, and is that a good reason to believe? And a lot of times, that creates controversy because it's not the normal way that people have conversation, right? People just talk about their beliefs, and people agree with them generally, and people go about their day. Where it's like I like to think about what everybody believes. I think it's important to coming to more accurate conclusions about reality.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's part of the reason for the conceptualization here is that we're discouraged by a lot of the conversations we hear, and that they seem, I guess, just not even really effective. Seems like people just. I talk about this in my classes a lot. It's like somebody makes a claim, then the other person makes the opposite claim, and then your claim's stupid, and no, my claim is the best, and your claim is stupid. And like one tier above that is, okay, well, what facts do you have? And okay, well, your facts are dumb. No, your facts are dumb. And then that's about as far as people tend to get in the conversations. And it's just like
Yeah,
so much more to talk about.
that is usually how the conversations go, and that's where street epistemology takes a step back, and it says when somebody presents that claim, you don't give them a counterclaim, and you don't just throw facts at them, because let's be honest, if somebody starts throwing facts at you, do you listen? Maybe, some people might, but generally, defenses go up, and that's not very helpful. So what SE does is it hears the person, reflects back what they're saying, and tries to understand, and that way you can actually have a conversation and talk about what's going on rather than just arguing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty thorough explanation of what's going on here. We are still waiting on people. Nobody in the politics Discord server yet. We might in the future have some remedies to this situation. There are lots of places for us to be. We're just trying to figure it out right now. So look for that in the future. There is the SE Discord server, Street Epistemology Discord server. You can join that. A lot of fun activities in there. We do have a very small server right now in the politics Discord server, though be careful with that because politics can get kind of heated. So fair warning, regarding that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're tuning in, give us a click and join us and come talk with us. I think we're pretty friendly people. If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to
you
check,
can. I think, yeah, look at last week. I think last week went really well, right?
it did. There was a couple of interesting people that we talked about. What flat Earth? That was the topic of last week's show. Yeah.
Yep, and we actually got a flat. Oh yeah, we could have that person call back if they see this. Maybe they'll come back, and I think overall it was respectful and useful.
Tell your friends.
Yeah.
Looking
Yeah,
for callers.
if you know any people that doubt the Big Bang, or you think generally you'd like to hear them express their views on something that maybe you disagree with, have them call in. If not,
If
we
you
might.
think
Yeah, go ahead, Sushi.
I was say, yeah, if you think that creationism is true, that God created the earth or the universe, if you believe in karma, if you believe in the Big Bang, we'll take any belief or counter belief. What's some of the superstitions, ghosts? If you believe in ghosts, Bigfoot, these are all things that we like to talk to people about. I don't know what are some
Climate
common topics you
change.
like to talk to people about?
Yeah. I still got to send you that list, but I mean, like climate change or some interesting ones, which maybe will theme in the future but we can still talk about today, would be like the JFK assassination or 9/11. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that one though. Some of these we might have to think about. 9/11 is an interesting topic sometimes.
Mm.
Um,
I
yeah.
forget about that one. Yeah. Well, the conspiracy being that steel can't like melt from jet fuel or thing like that is the claim.
Well, that's one of them. There's a
Hmm.
bunch of arguments behind it, but yeah, that is one of the things that I've heard people say, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Or the moon landing was staged. Another one. Yeah, aliens exist or don't exist. Which, I find that, kind of a really big question because if we are alone, that's terrifying. And also, if we're not alone, that's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either
Yep.
way, it's a hell of an answer. Yeah.
I think I'm slightly more afraid of aliens, but that's
Afraid?
just.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, not
Hmm.
actually afraid because I don't think about it, but I think the idea is that I think there's some strong possibility that if we come into contact with aliens, they will uh, interact with us like we tend to interact with each other when we encounter new people,
Hmm.
or not. Maybe they'll be far above us and past all of that.
Yeah, I think if there's a sufficiently advanced civilization that is capable of contacting us, I think they're going to know how to manage us, and I don't think we're going to need to worry about it. Or they're sufficiently advanced that they don't care. Think of it like certain insects or whatever, where we just leave them do their thing and we don't really mind them. Maybe we study them, and I mean, if you ask me, I think that's probably the likely outcome from aliens, and be like, oh, look at this primitive species.
But we mess ants up, though.
We do.
Some of them,
This,
we don't. Some of them we leave alone, and then other ones we mess their whole stuff up. Even
yeah,
sometimes because we feel like it, we'll just come mess their stuff up, even if we're not building our own stuff or doing anything.
I try to not kill any living thing when possible. I mean, if there's not crawling on my face, I'm probably going to kill it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard you talking about that the other day.
Yeah, or in my food, then, it's like, "Yep, okay, goodbye now." But if it's outside, like, why? Oh, there we go. Hey, we got somebody, joined us on Discord. Um, I know you guys can't see it there on the stream. Caleb .m. I'm not sure how to say that, if you can hear us.
You talking about
Wait,
stonks?
Stonks?
Yeah. How's it
Alright,
going,
hey,
Stonks?
you know this person?
I do not, but maybe we've interacted. I gotta turn you up though. Oh,
Okay.
are you the one that we were talking about American influence, or was that a different? Okay. Well, do you want to come up and talk about some more stuff, or? Okay, so this is street epistemology. It's just basically where we examine like a belief that you have, but we don't do it in like a debatey way. So it is a little bit different from the rest of the politics Discord server. The idea is that we try to remain like civil and uh, uh, cordial and maintain rapport. Yeah, yeah. So if that's something you're interested in, we can either share the screen and people will be able to just hear you from here, or
So
you can click
currently
on the
we
link.
are waiting for, Quaid to, uh, bring up somebody
Oh
from
yeah, yeah.
Discord. So if you guys wanna join in, you can join the Discord, or you can, or excuse me, click on the links to join us after this caller. I'm not sure if they're gonna come up or not. And we could talk to you about your particular belief. Uh, you can't unmute. Oh. Yeah, so, uh, street epistemology is the best, and I love it. Um, was having an interesting conversation with some people yesterday where they were questioning me about my moral beliefs, and it thought about made me think about some of my reasons, um, and it was a deep discussion. I think the moral of my belief is that it's subjective. Oh, Quaid, are we back, Quaid?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
okay.
I'll drop down if somebody pops in from now on. I didn't. Yeah. Thanks for thinking of
Yeah,
that, Sushi.
yeah, we didn't really plan that out in advance. N
We're learning still. Just give us like another week. We'll have this down. I promise. We got the countdown from last week, right? So we're set there. And so if we have a potential caller, I will drop behind the scenes for a moment just to see if they want to come up. Yeah, Sushi, actually, really quick. There was something
Sure.
that we were talking about that I wanted to talk to you about, but I can't remember what that thing was. It was like we were talking about, I think, morality being
Subjective.
subjective, right?
Mhm.
And then there was something that you said that is it was oh shoot. I'm getting so close. I'm getting so close now. It was something like
Like a moral statement being true? Like, what does that mean? Is that what it was about?
uh it was like, oh man, I don't want to abandon this because I really did want to talk to you about it. But I was thinking like uh, there are examples. I don't know. Maybe if I think of it, I'll say something. But I guess just in terms of morality being subjective, we agree on that. So it couldn't have been about that.
Could have been about determinism. Determinism seems like a likely thing, and I don't see much evidence for free will. So anybody who's watching, if they believe in free will or determinism, that's another interesting claim that we could talk about. Or if you, well, I think the conversation that brought up morality was around being vegetarian or vegan, and the ethical implications behind eating animals. Um, So if that's something you want to, if you believe that, we can totally discuss that. Or chemtrails, you know?
That's another one. Yeah, we could even talk about lowering taxes or rent control. Those are topics that people have different perspectives on. Ones that I find particularly interesting. Um,
Sasha asked a question. Just found some of the people that try to read into the line. Let me see. Have questions I'm asking using SE, but won't actually answer the questions I'm asking. Should I go along with the way they engage? So what I find myself doing in that situation is I will first, try to. I will say something along the lines of like, that's an interesting answer, but I don't think that quite answered my question, or unless I didn't understand you. And I think that's a respectful way of saying like, that didn't answer my question, right? And then, restating the question. If that doesn't go through, then try totally rephrasing the question. And then if that doesn't, work, then maybe you could, continue with what they're going on if it's not too far off track. Does that answer your question? Or Quade, do you have any opinions on that? Sorry.
no, I think you covered all the bases there. That sounded good to me. I mean, that's usually my process that I go
Is
through.
there a particular phrase that you use when you encounter that, when you have to rephrase a question?
Well, I think the the uh, the first thing that you said, which was something along the lines of, uh, I forget how you put it, but like, can you re-answer the question or something like
Yeah,
that?
I'm not quite sure that it answered my question. And maybe I just didn't understand, but my question was, and then kind of restate it, not and try not to use exactly the same words. And
Yeah.
then if that doesn't hit, then like a complete rephrasing of the question or a separate question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask for an elaboration. That's what I do. I say, "Could you elaborate?" So if I've asked a question and they've given me an answer that I don't think is an answer to the question that I've asked, then I'll ask them to elaborate
Mm.
and see if yeah.
Yeah, and that really depends on the interlocutor, because you can have the interlocutors that can be um, short or long talkers. And usually I will use the elaborate on clarification around like definitions to understand like more of what they're saying. But usually when there's the not answering my question, it seems as though there is like a like moving the conversation to another topic, which does tend to happen in normal conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, Brenda, so this is a call-in show. We are talking to people about their beliefs. Currently, we don't have any callers, but if you'd like to join us and talk to us about something you believe, whether it's the Big Bang being false or true, or if you believe in God or superstitions, or conspiracy theories, we use a conversation tactic, a conversation method called street epistemology, which is a way to talk to people about their beliefs without arguing and debating.
Based on how she phrased that, though, I think she's wondering if one of us says that it's false, which we are not
Yeah.
currently making that claim. I know based off the title, it might seem like that, but
I mean, I don't know that it's true. And the Big Bang isn't the greatest term for it, right? Science
yeah, yeah.
uses the inflate expansion of the universe, because it's not, when you hear Big Bang, you hear explosion, and it wasn't an explosion. And see, clickbait. Yeah, sorry, Brenda. It kind of is.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
come up
yeah.
with it.
And I also didn't mean to do it that way. I came up with the title really quick, like I was just trying to, this is in a Discord server, so I only get so many words before it starts blocking it off. So it's just like Big Bang, and it's just like, okay, what can I put with Big Bang that will convey what I actually want to talk about, and that's what came out. Yeah, I'm not trying to bait people into thinking that we're necessarily trying to argue that it's false or anything, or this isn't news that has come out recently that's disproved the expansion of the universe or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's possible that it looks like, Brenda. Oh, it's this Brenda. I remember Brenda. Brenda came in last week. Do you want to bring Brenda up on stage?
Yep. Brenda creates and Brenda debates.
Are you there?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Brenda, how are you doing?
How's it going?
Very fine. Well, at first I was going to move on, but then I decided to talk about how do we decide what to believe. So when I saw the is the Big Bang real or not title, I quick checked, and sources that I trust tell me that it is other people twisting the results of the James Webb Space Telescope, and that it is not true that it disproved the Big Bang. So this is something I do all the time, which is I have to decide who's reliable and who isn't, and what sources can I trust and what sources should I not trust. So people tell me things all the time, and sometimes it sounds ridiculous and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it sounds ridiculous and I'm wrong when I check on it, and then other times I'm right. But it's hard these days to be really sure because number one, sometimes people are twisting the truth in very subtle ways that are not easy to understand or not easy to detect. But then other times it's fairly easy. But I have to have sources that I trust, and before I came to your website or your YouTube channel, I had paused briefly on a channel on a while ago. Veritasium. Do you know who Veritasium is?
Yeah.
And he had a video that said electricity doesn't flow through wires.
Yep.
And because if you take electricity in university level and high school level, they're going to tell you electricity flows in wires. You can have, and the thing is, I looked that up, and it seems like he's kind of right about the things that he says, but it's really nuanced, and you need to know a little bit about special relativity, I guess, and quantum mechanics to really tease out the details. And that it turns out that if you're building a circuit, for a radio, you don't have to worry about quantum mechanics. You can just act as though electricity flows through wires to design all of those common electrical things. So it's really, this is something that I face with, a lot of times, because I debate people, and it can be really tricky. And so I had to do, typically my favorite source to go to these days for science questions are the what are they called, the stacks, the physics stack and mathematics stacks. Are you familiar with that website?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because there's a philosophy stack that I go to a lot. for
those are
things.
those are pretty dependable resources, and a lot better than Wikipedia, because you'll get people that are knowledgeable about subjects that will give you advice or respond to questions, and you can get several responses, and then you can judge. It's a lot better than Quora. I mean, with Quora, you don't know the expertise level of the people that are responding, but on, like, say, physics stacks, you can be pretty sure. You can be pretty sure. It's typically students asking and then other people who are knowledgeable responding. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff like that these days. And then it's hard. But then the political scene on YouTube and on social media, it's insane. It's
Yeah, Brenda,
insane.
I'm wondering, how do you determine what sources to trust and which to not trust?
I have to be comfortable with not knowing sometimes. And so sometimes there'll be sources where there'll be conflict and I don't feel like I can judge, and I just have to say, maybe I don't know about this issue. So I have to, first of all, be comfortable with being with levels of uncertainty, not being sure. And I guess like university sources from experts, I tend to, I will take them more authoritative. And also, then I have to also rely on my own. Since I've been, for most of my life, I've been a reader, and I've been interested in science topics and science fiction and a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of history and stuff. So I have a background level of education. And so I have intuitions that will guide me. And when I debate people like, say, flat earthers or creationists, they lack the basic intuitions that I have, that I developed over a lifetime. So they will not understand simple. So somebody who's really into conspiracy and pseudoscience will lack the intuitions that I have from the physical sciences or regular sciences. They will not know what momentum is, what forces are. They will not understand. They will dispute things like atoms and molecules, and simple things like that. They have very odd beliefs. And so I guess when it comes to it, I have a groundwork of knowledge because I was always interested in science topics and big science fiction reader. And so I have those intuitions that are developed over time. And then I still have trust of institutional sources in the STEM fields. But boy, oh boy, when it comes to politics, holy crap! It's much harder when it comes to politics, to know what's going on there, because it's a much softer science than the others. So it's really hard.
Yeah, that certainly is a very difficult one when politics. How do you go about like figuring out reliable sources for politics?
Nazis bad. Nazis bad.
Yep.
Communists bad. And shooting people bad. That's about, generally. Well, I'll tell you one thing. My views on conservative, I consider myself a liberal Democrat, but my views on conservative, what I consider old school conservatives, the kind that I would have known when I was growing up and stuff, I'm much more appreciative or willing to much more appreciative of what I consider general conservatives, because I feel that in the United States, at least, politics has veered very far to the right, and it reached dangerous levels. So
How,
much less judgmental of conservative. So people have political intuitions, just like we have intuitions about physics, but I think that those are more based in emotions than physics is based in reality. So
so you had said there that that the political seems to be more right-sided than left now. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
that's my sense, my intuition from seeing the news. I see conservatives who are defecting the GOP, claiming that it has gone too far for them. They're not comfortable with it. I see conservative judges who were elected by people I didn't like at all, like Bush and other conservatives who are ideologically opposed to how far they feel that the right in the United States politics has gotten. They're not so.
So when
I
hear you,
trust their judgment. I trust their judgment that they feel that their political side of the aisle is too far for them. Right? It's definitely too far to the right for me. That's how.
So what I hear is, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is some news that you've watched, and there is people that you kind of respect their opinion on as they have knowledge of the situation, and then you have intuition, and based on that, you've come to the conclusion that politics are more right-leaning currently.
Yes.
Okay. So out of those reasons, what is the biggest reason, or which gives you the most credence to that belief out of those three?
Meaning in the field of politics?
Yeah, for using the news, the intuition, or people that are in politics as a source.
As far as, well, I'm going to cough here.
Okay, go for it. We all cough. Well, while Brenda's coughing, if you guys are watching, this is a call-in show where we talk to people about their beliefs in a respectful manner using a method called street epistemology, where we have a polite conversation rather than arguing and debating. The link is in the chat, so go ahead and give that a click and join us. I'm sorry, Brenda. Go ahead.
Yes, I'll step down if somebody else wants to come in anytime. Right, I'll step down.
So far, we don't have anybody, so you're good.
So
yeah, we'll let you know.
I have guiding principles, right? And so I'm familiar with Jonathan Haidt, who has what he calls his moral foundations that he feels that guide people's political beliefs. He says that there's like 7 types of sort of foundations that people come from. Some people are very interested or very concerned with egalitarianism, some with and some with proportionality, some with sanctity, some with contamination and stuff like that, and that these sort of basic moral foundations guide people's political beliefs. So typically, I would say conservatives that are just merely to the right of me would be very concerned with proportionality, whereas I'm more concerned with egalitarian values. But some of the people on the far right are concerned with like purity and contamination. and they're very reactionary.
So let me maybe harass a different question. So if how did you go about, or how would we go about measuring how right or left the politics is currently? Like what metrics are you using to make this judgment?
I don't know. It's all
Hmm.
about me, isn't it? It's all about me. I'm
Okay.
being somewhat facetious. But we can. It's about me and the people that I know and the people that are part of other people that think more or less like me, and then I judge other positions based on how far they feel from me. So if somebody's saying, like, eat the rich, we need to bring down the state, and we need to have anarchy, and I feel like, no, that's not for me. Or if somebody else says, well, we need to um, secure the borders, and we need to have racial purity, because at racial and ethnic purity, and we need to enforce that with the law. That's also, for me, not okay. And so
So I'm
people who
if
are
I may.
not like that are closer to me, and people who are like that are very far from me.
So, I'm not sure that quite answered my question, though. I
I'm
think
sorry.
I know you. Yeah, I know you said you were being facetious about the answers, that it was like personal, but I am curious about what metric are you using? It seemed as though, and I'm not sure I quite understood that. There's certain political topics that kind of you use as a guide, but like, what is the metrics to determine, if it is more right or left?
Right is more concerned with authority and obedience to rules. Left is more concerned um, with freedom and permissiveness, right? And I have a tendency to be attracted to that end more than to the former. And I think that is my personal preference.
Hmm.
I don't.
So,
I think that everybody's like that. I think everybody just has preferences.
okay. Yeah, and if somebody would have the opposite view, um, and this person, said that the country is actually going really left wing, and it's because of these particular political talking points, like the LGBTQ or Black Lives Matter or
Yeah,
Antifa,
yeah.
and they said, based on their intuition, that the country is moving right wing, or excuse me, left wing. How would we go about determining whether the country is going right or left between these two people? Like, they're using your reasons and using theirs. Yeah.
I'm sure. I think I don't know, because I would tend to judge those things as some of those as being exaggerations. You're just exaggerating and overreacting to um, trans children getting affirmative care, to gays being allowed to marry, um, to other social issues, and they aren't as big a deal. It's like, if I was talking to that person, I would say they aren't as big a deal as you're making them out to be, and the world is not falling apart because trans kids are being given affirmative care, or that gays are being able to marry, or that women are competing for you again with your job, or that immigrants are coming in across the border. That's
So then,
that's I don't know how else I can say it. My sense is my sense, my feeling is that these aren't a big deal.
So let me try to rephrase it a little bit. So let's say there's this person, and let's call him George. Or actually, since you used the LGBT or trans community, we're going to call this person Betty. And Betty, he is he's never heard of either of these two topics, the border or the LGBT, trans, children, transitioning, and they have to make a judgment to determine whether or not the country is going more right or more left, right? So based on that, how would this person, Betty, how would he go about determining whether it was going more right or left? Because he doesn't have
Would it,
the values, right?
would it just be a poll, just a simple where we just do a survey and we
Yeah.
see how people are politically affiliated? But to counter that, some people would feel, well, the country. What people often say is the country mostly agrees with me, but these liberal ideas or these conservative it can go either way. Liberal or conservative ideas are being imposed on me by minority people, and
Yeah.
I think both sides will make that claim, that it's being imposed on them from a minority and that they're upset with that.
So if you had to go off of the like this Betty person had to go off of the intuition that they had, or the poll that was done to determine, if it was more right or left, which one do you think would be a more reliable way to form a belief?
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I think my instinct would be to identify an issue and to try to convince them that, try to move the needle on their beliefs. I would not try to get them to say, "Oh, okay, it's great that kids are getting gender affirming care," but I would try to move the needle to say to at least to the point where, parents have a right to uh, seek the appropriate care for their children, and the children have a right to seek appropriate care, and maybe I can be not so upset by that. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and I think that sounds like a good way to convince somebody. But my
that
question
doesn't answer
is
your
like,
that doesn't answer your
yeah,
question though.
yeah, yeah. Like, is
I don't know
intuition
how. I
or
don't know how to answer your question.
brilliant answer. I love it. I thank you. I appreciate the honesty. It's a hard question, like how measuring things can be very difficult when it comes to social problems. Yeah.
I suppose you could do a survey of legislation and see if, and then typify that legislation and see if it goes one way or another. But I don't think that recently there's much there's much of that going on right now. There's not a lot of legislative activity, um, but then people who are intensely interested in a certain area will very often point to certain legislations or rulings or court cases that confirm their beliefs. And I think that one important thing to do is to not to trust your own confirmation bias in the news. You know what I mean? Is don't trust the fact that, except, it's, I have to say this, to both you guys. I don't know if you ever heard of Midas Touch, a political show, or how about David Pakman? Are you familiar with David Pakman?
Yeah, I
I
am
am not.
familiar.
When I listen to either of those, I feel so good because they're telling me what exactly conforms with my politics. So when David Pakman is talking about things, right, he's telling me things that definitely, make me feel like generally okay, right? So what I hear, and then when I listen to, say, Fox News or to very far right news sources, I definitely don't feel okay. I don't feel like those people are telling me things that conform with my. And I have to say that there's, but you have to take them somewhat seriously. Like where they get, if somebody tells you, if somebody on the right like tells you that such and such is a terrible thing, you can't go by just, well, that makes me feel bad because it goes against my politics. You have to check and see if what they're saying is right. If they got the story right, if they're not misquoting something, and then see and then see about that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask really quick, Brenda. It seems like there is fear or concern behind some of this, and there's this fear or concern that the politics is moving to the right because of what you see as the repercussions of that movement. Is that
Yeah, it's a concern that I'm transgender, so I worry that I could be seeing y'all in the camps. I could be wearing a star, maybe a pink star or something sometime, and I worry about that, and I worry that things could get very bad to where, but on the other hand, I look at other sources that seem to me to indicate that the people that I'm afraid of do not have a majority hold on national opinion. I think quite a lot of people make fun of and disagree strongly with what is called the MAGA political faction in the GOP, and that I tell myself to have faith that that will probably win out over them. So there's a lot of hope and faith that goes into things. It can't all be rational. You have to kind of hope for the best sometimes.
Is there a better method than hope or faith to have the outcome that you would want?
Guns.
Okay. Yeah, that is an
No,
answer.
I said that to get a reaction out of you. I said that to get a reaction out of you.
I got it. I mean, it is an answer. You're not wrong, but not a great one.
Political power flows from the barrel of a gun. To quote Mao, not a good quote. Not a good quote at all. But I think that I have a number of things that I tell myself. One is a lot of things are in very ordinary organizations and everyday activities that people do, and those are very hard to change. And so the radical changes that I'm afraid of are unlikely or are made less likely because people have a sort of, and the way they treat each other have a sort of inertia that is very hard to move. So when I was joking and saying, see you in the camps, I should actually make that very unlikely because everyday people are just not going to go along with that. And so I don't know what other word to use than inertia, or people are just not going to go along with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it does. But I'm wondering if your confidence on this idea of um, American politics shifting right has modified at all during this discussion, or if it's still relatively the same.
I'm less certain.
Okay.
I think that there is a very powerful minority who are very conservative, who have been, that is, I hear people in the media say that it is very destructive on the in the GOP, and is likened to a cult. But cults can be very dangerous. But a large percentage of people are not are have very strong opinions. I think I pretty much reject that minority, and so then the question is whether or not they can actually get a foothold. And I think the odds, I can only think in odds. I think the odds are probably not, right? So if in next fall, when there's an election, if it turns out really strongly towards what I consider the correct side, towards democracy, that will strengthen my belief in sort of the general population. Do you know what I mean?
So if the election goes towards the Republicans versus the Democrats, that would increase your confidence that the country is going right wing?
Well, that would definitely signal that. That would signal possibly the death of our democracy, in my opinion. Because Trump has literally said he wants to be a dictator on day one. That's literally what he said. So I consider that very serious. So, but if it goes the other way, that would reinforce my faith, my belief in in the general population not wanting to go along with this. That it's just a small minority of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I was really trying to understand about the faith and the hope part, as far as coming to or working towards a goal. To like illustrate it, if I hope really hard that my cancer gets cured, do you think that's the best way to cure cancer?
Absolutely not.
What would be a better way to like cure cancer?
Well, you know how doctors do it.
Yeah.
They basically feed you with poison that kills every growing cell in your body, and hopefully takes out the cancer with it, and then hopefully they save the patient.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
chemotherapy attacks actively growing cells and kills them, and it doesn't distinguish. That's why your hair falls out, right? So they just get the cancer as well. It's sort of a burn down the forest solution to cancer.
so now bringing that analogy over to politics without the burning down the forest part, is there a better way to have the political
the thing is, that the analogy is kind of bad, because in medicine we have science that says, chemotherapy is very effective and it gives you a good probability of surviving this or that cancer. And I don't think we have that kind of rigorous knowledge in politics that we do in medicine, treating cancer. And I think that in the absence of strong evidence to the contrary, we kind of just have to go by hopes and faith. And by faith, I mean trust, and not an well, it is kind of irrational. I don't think I'm very much a person who is interested in my beliefs being rational and everything, but I don't think that you can eliminate belief and faith from your life, even as an atheist. I just don't think you can. I think there's a lot of things you have to just leave up to hope or your beliefs.
So, and I'm kind of going to. Oh, we got another caller in here. Maybe one last question. If we, I'm kind of gonna, kind of push my idea a little bit here, and I don't know if you're open to it, but if I were going to want change in, politics. I think I would want to use something like activism or protesting over hoping. Would you agree that the activism would be better than hope?
Yes, you make a good point. It is a good point that if you feel about an issue that you should convince other people that they should support that issue along with you. And I think that is a good point. Didn't actually really think about that. Mostly I just think about who I'm going to vote for and stuff.
Oh, we lost Matthew. Yeah, that was a brilliant answer. I really appreciate the open and honesty there, Brenda. And yeah, and that's what we're about here, is like having these discussions to get people reflect. And it's helped me just so much to question my own beliefs about things, and not just use things like hope and faith to come to conclusions.
Well, I say that because I bill myself as being this super rational person, even in my daily life and stuff. But I just don't think that you can go all the way with that. I just don't. I think that you can't. There's so much that you just can't know, and we're in the dark so many times. So many of our decisions, we simply don't have access to all the information. We just don't know, and so you have to go by your intuitions, your gut feelings, or whatever intuitions you have, and make decisions based on that. And for me, it's I think democracy is a good thing. I think that the progression. So I'm 66 years old, and when I was a teen or an early teen, it was not okay for men to have long hair. It was not okay, and it was not. It was, and my mom did not she did not have her own bank account. Her bank account was under my father's name. She couldn't get loans without my father co-signing on the loans, right? It was a very different time. Things have changed a lot in my lifetime. I would have never thought, for instance, that people could get married who are same sex, and this is considered normal. It was not okay back then, and so things have changed a lot, and now I've lost the thread of what I was talking about.
Yeah, I think
I was
that
saying something and I've completely forgot. I'm really sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. I think you brought up a really good thing there. You'd said there's just some things we don't know, and that's true. But if we don't know, should we use our intuition to come up with an answer, or should we say, I don't know?
I think we should use our intuition,
Okay.
because I think that we might have subconscious processes that are going on that are not accessible to our conscious mind, and they might be, those hunches might be better might be based on more than just an irrational hunch. I don't know if you know what I mean.
So if somebody used their intuition, um, and they came to a conclusion, and is there a possibility that that conclusion can be false?
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody else came to the opposite conclusion around the same idea, and they believed it was true, and you came to the conclusion that it was false using the intuition, do you think intuition is a good method to come to a conclusion?
I think in that case, you have to seek a compromise. You have to negotiate a solution then. If you have two opposing people with different political intuitions, you have to reach a compromise between the two. Or failing that, I guess you have to go to war with each other. I mean,
You mean it in the figurative sense, right?
maybe not so figurative. It depends. If somebody has it in their mind that my stuff is their stuff, then that's going to be a big no, right?
Mhm.
But if it's, well, I think that we should increase the taxes by 2% over sales tax and stuff, then that's a compromise issue. It depends, right? But if the issue is you as a transgender person don't have any rights, then that's a bigger issue. One I'd be more willing to fight more vigorously. So
Hmm.
I guess what it comes down to is my sense of how important it is to me. But that it could be really important to them that I don't have rights. Right. Say
Yeah.
abortion. So abortion would be an issue, and I think that I think abortion should be safe and legal, and it's very seems clear to me that there's a very strong push to removing abortion rights from women. I think that is, people in the past have certainly been willing to kill doctors who perform abortions. I'm not convinced I would go that far, but because now I'm getting lost again.
That's okay. So you had brought up there about like moral beliefs, such as like trans healthcare, and you had said about using the intuition. Do you think a moral statement can be true or false?
I think it's it. I think it's gonna. I have a really hard time with that. I have a
Okay.
tendency to be. Um, I'm not sure I believe in objective morals, and I'm not sure I believe that moral claims are truth apt. I think that they're possibly. I'm sort of tends towards the view that they are expressions of preferences by people,
Okay.
and then we work that out in the realm of politics. Um,
Okay.
and over time, people come to various conclusions. For instance, humanity practiced slavery for hundreds of years, thousands of years. We practiced slavery, and today that's considered immoral, but it certainly wasn't even a few hundred years ago. So these things can change. These things change by people working it out between themselves and negotiating. Whether that is violently, sometimes it'd be best if it was not so often violent, but sometimes it has to be.
Yeah. So if you have, oh, pardon me, if you have a moral claim, like slavery being bad, which I agree with, but thousands of years ago, and well, actually, not even thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, when slavery was still okay, I feel like intuition. Where from what you're saying, it sounds like you could use intuition to go, "Hey, wait a second, this isn't so good."
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would have gone to. It's just my nature. I don't think I would go as far as committing acts of violence to combat slavery. I think well, as a trans person, I wouldn't have been permitted. But let's say I was just an ordinary person, I would have definitely been willing to fight in the Union Army against those forces that I considered are wanting to perpetuate slavery. So I would have fought that. I would like to think I would have spoken out about it. It's hard to say because, it's hard to imagine yourself back in that time and what kind of situation you would have and how much you could do.
So if you used your intuition to determine that slavery is bad back then, how would you convince other people?
I would try to use argumentation and
Yep.
reasoning, and I would also probably try to appeal to emotions too.
Yeah.
I don't think I would use exclusively just pure reasoning. I would try to make them feel, have them make emotional appeals, and that's what I would think I would do. I mean, did you ever see the movie Lincoln?
I
Yeah, I
have
love
not,
that
no.
movie. It's a great
Huh?
movie. You should watch it.
It's a great movie, and there's
Daniel
and
Day-Lewis.
yes, and the acting is great. Everything is great about it. And there's some points in there where it's really like you think about what you would have done in those at that time, and there was a really telling moment when they're debating in the Congress, and somebody says, "The next thing you know, women are going to want to vote," and everybody laughs out loud. It sort of gives you a sense of what it was like, what the distance, because we would consider that not controversial at all. I don't think. Well, God only knows these days, but it made you think about how different it was, and the mindset, and it's just the mindset of people. So that can make you think that maybe there's cause for hope, right? Because things did change.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think I was thinking about as we've kind of already gone over this ground a little bit, but I know that there are many people who are more conservative or Republican, and they see this or that thing that happened in history as indications that the U.S. or that countries are becoming more liberal or even woke, as the buzzword of today. There's a fear on their side that the country is becoming more and more woke, and so I'm wondering, how could we, really tell? And another possibility here may be also that we're not looking at the question right, and this isn't kind of a line, but a multi-spectrum thing where you can move in different directions. It might be more woke in one way and less woke in another way, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. when I pay attention to some people on the right, they will sometimes bring up things that they say, quote unquote, this woke person has said or done. And I think that's really extreme. I don't agree with that. Right. I don't think whatever it is that, I don't think that we should eliminate the police. Right. Some people have said that.
Mhm.
I don't agree with that. And that is, in my opinion, too far. So, but then I have the sense that these people are overreacting because I don't think that those people have any political power, and I don't take them very seriously. I don't see them as a serious threat.
Okay. So you're talking about in these instances, these instances of uh, woke people saying something that sounds really extreme. You just don't think, you don't at all see that as an issue because you don't think that they have any real like political powers. Am I understanding that correctly, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I've had my mind changed a little bit with these recent accusations of plagiarism at Harvard and other places. It kind of seems to me, if I have all the information right, that that's not cool. That they did plagiarize, and that was, and also I don't think that their stance on anti-Semitism was the correct one, and so I do think that some of the criticism was justified, but I'm not sure how big of a deal that really is, because some Harvard administrator plagiarized part of a dissertation seems to me less something for me to worry about than Donald Trump saying he would be a dictator on day one. That seems more of a threat to me, more possible to affect me than a Harvard administrator. I just that's my sense of those things.
Got you. I am wondering, because I don't actually have the quote in front of me, so, and it sounds like you might know more about this. If we were to talk to somebody who was a Trump supporter about this thing that he said, what do you think their response to it would be?
Have you seen those interviews? There's like interviews. These guys walk around with a microphone. I think they would say that's okay.
Okay.
I think that the MAGA crowd, the people, it's a percentage of the GOP. I think that they want to burn everything down. They're very, I think that they're very extreme, and I don't think that it's even close to being rash. I don't think that they're people that you can do ordinary politics with. I think conservatives of the kind that I knew when I was growing up here in Minnesota and stuff, those are people you can do politics with. You can do deals with. You can negotiate. You can compromise. But I don't think you can compromise with the far right now in the United States. And so that's very, very worry. That's a big worry, because politics is all about compromise. You never get everything you want, and when you have people who are not willing to compromise and who have beliefs that I consider disconnected from reality, then I think that that's very dangerous. And
Okay.
we will crush them in the polls. We will crush them at the ballot box. That's the proper way to think about it, though. Just make them politically irrelevant.
All right. So you think that if you ask them about Trump, their response is going to be, yes, he said that, but that's what we want.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I do. Uh, there's there's a significant part. Some of these people, they think that he's a messianic figure for them. He's a quasi religious figure. Um, they like lay hands on him and stuff. It's really the religion and politics getting together is really a big concern of mine because I see that, and that's very, very worrying
Is
because
that where
those are
maybe
two powerful
sorry.
forces. They're powerful forces that can and have shown themselves in the past to cause a lot of damage to societies. When religious fervor becomes too connected with politics, um, people start dying.
Oh, okay. Might be that where some of the concern about or the belief that things are swinging into the right are coming from is um, the team up, I guess, of the conservative party and religion or
Yeah,
religious
yeah.
extremism.
Yes, there's people that literally say that he is a Messiah, that he is sent by God to save America, and they put a lot of this stuff into quasi-religious terms that are very very worrying for ordinary. I, I I would long for the day when we can have ordinary politics, right? Ordinary politics is deciding, um, you know, taxes, and things like that.
Okay. Do you think that I lost my question for a second there. Uh, do you think what percentage, if you had to guess, do you think make up this kind of extreme religious conservative group?
The last number that I heard was somewhere in like say 25%, 30% or so.
Mm,
I'm not
okay.
100% sure. However, it seems like in the GOP that you can't have a career in the GOP unless you are MAGA, and that means kowtowing to Trump and the Trump supporters, and that it doesn't seem like Republicans, old style Republicans, who are they just want to get rid of they just want tax relief for themselves because they're rich. That's the old style. Oh my God, I wish we had those. They didn't care about anything. They just didn't want any tax. They just didn't want to be taxed. Uh, if only we had those people back instead of the crazies.
Okay.
But it seems like and what I hear from the sources that I listen to is that the the Trump contingent is kind of taking over the party, and I don't know if that's 100% true or not. It certainly seems like it.
Okay.
I do have to say that I should be weary of the sources that I look, because they can skew. They have a message to take. They have a bias, and they could be emphasizing things in ways that are not accurate. But I don't know how else to to think about it, because there's these very extreme people on the right, and then seems like there's just everybody else.
Got you. What do you think the next thing is that you? Oh, I think you've already answered this. So I think, because I think the
But
idea is that if
it's
Trump wins, that's going to radically
yeah,
change your confidence on this whole thing, right?
I would be very concerned about my personal safety, and about my person. In right now, politics is something that I pay attention to online, and it doesn't seem to affect me much. And here in Minnesota, politics are fairly ordinary, relatively ordinary. But if it were to get worse, if he were to be elected, I would be very concerned that it would actually affect me in negatively in some way. Although I wouldn't really worry socially so much because of where I live, it's pretty progressive, and I wouldn't be subjected to discrimination or abuse here.
You mean in the state that you're in?
Right, because I live in a metropolitan area, and people aren't going to change their minds about things just because of Trump getting elected. But I wonder if it could affect me in other ways that I don't know about.
Yeah. So then, is the opposite true? What if Trump loses? Let's just start there. What if Trump loses? Would this shift your confidence in the direction that the country is going?
Yes.
Okay.
It would make me very happy. It make me increase my confidence that my trust of the common person having common sense and not being swayed to extremist politics. Right. So I'm against extremist politics on the left and the right, but I judge the right as more dangerous than the left. I think the left, they're not going to, it's just not going to happen, right? They just don't have the power. And I think that the right extremist does have the power. But I would like to see a return towards what I consider centrist politics. That would be nice. And what I consider centrist politics is more like me.
Gotcha.
But people can only judge where other people are by where they are, right? Because there's people that judge me because I'm a liberal Democrat as being conservative or more conservative than they're comfortable with, and I consider myself a center left liberal Democrat. There's plenty of people that consider me very far on the left. I encounter those people rather frequently. That's because they're people judge based on the other people that are close to them, that are emotionally or socially close to them. And they judge other people by how far how much they differ from their social circle.
Gotcha.
Except that, I'm right and they're wrong.
Yeah.
But how can I think anything other than my interests, my preferences are probably good? I mean, I don't think I'm right, but I think that people should be more towards where I am, which is center left. I kind of do think that.
Yeah, and I think a question that we may have already covered at this point, but how do we exactly figure that out? Like you said, political science is it's a softer science, right?
Yeah.
And
so
these issues might apply.
The hard part is being willing to compromise and negotiate and to not get everything that you want.
Oh, okay. So that's kind of one of the, if someone isn't willing to negotiate with people who have very different views from them, then this is kind of a signal of extremism and something that's just not good.
Because at that time, then it indicates that there's a potential for violence, which I want to avoid. Right. So if somebody is not willing to compromise, then that means, well, I'm going to have to use violence. Right. If somebody wants to come into my apartment, they think they have a right to be in there and they have a right to my stuff, and they're not willing to compromise, I'm going to have to use some kind of violent means to convince them to stop. I mean, we don't talk about it much, but a lot of that it does come down to that, right? Sometimes, I mean, there are people who enter other people's homes or put their hands on another person and try to force their will on that person, steal from them, rob them, at gunpoint, commit theft, and the only solution sometimes is force. You have to defend we think that you are morally justified in defending yourself with violence if necessary, right? I mean, yeah, somebody comes into your house and they start doing what they want. You think you have a moral right to defend yourself, to defend your property, and to do so with violence if necessary. And I think that's kind of applies in the larger politics too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's an extreme we don't want to get to. That's why we have negotiations, compromises. But there's a bunch of people that feel like they got the short end of everything, and they're very upset.
Okay. Yeah, I think I understand a lot of what you're saying. I don't know that I have any more questions though, so I can't think of any off the top of my head. Sushi, do you have any other?
No, I don't have any particular questions.
Why is your name Sushi?
So it is close to my actual name, and my partner's kid started calling me Sushi to make fun of me, and I'm like, I really like that, and I started calling myself Sushi.
Okay, so you like eating bait, huh?
I like eating bait.
Yeah, I'm a sashimi fan myself, personally. I don't need the rice.
I don't know. I don't eat the shrimp heads. No,
You said
not,
you don't eat
not
the
funny.
shrimp head? The
Never
shrimp
mind.
head? I didn't know that
Yeah.
that was a thing, so that's...
They will serve. Some places will serve you the shrimp with the heads on.
Hmm.
I was just suggesting to not eat that head.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no interest.
I'm out of things to talk about.
Yes.
Well,
it was very nice having you. Yeah. It was really a pleasure talking with you, and your open and honesty about things was great. So
Yeah. And if all else fails, nuke them from orbit. That's the only way to be sure.
Well, it'll definitely solve all our problems, but we won't have any problems.
No, I just like that. I just like that line. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of what I'm thinking here. I don't want to divulge too my own views or whatever, but it seems a little bit complicated in terms of like you said, you're in Minnesota, right? So if there's this shift that is kind of harmful, well, then you have all these states that aren't on the same page, and then it's just like the military. What's the military going to do? I know lots of people who have a variety of views in politics in the military, so it's just like, I guess they technically have to obey whoever's in power at the time, but I know many of them wouldn't be willing to.
Although I think I have to say that very likely in my state, even if Trump was reelected, and even if he attempted to take authoritarian strongman power, I'm not sure how much it would affect me in my state. I'm not sure it would be that much, although I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to find out, basically. But I think it would go really bad for people in other states. I don't know. I think it would go really bad for them.
That brings up an interesting question. Like we all tend to focus around just the presidential election, but how much impact does the presidential election compare to, say, your local municipal elections versus state elections?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. We had an election a couple years back here which was very important, and some people got voted out, and it made a difference on the kinds of policies and things that have been passed here, especially in the wake of 2021 when we had the riots here. We had pretty significant riots here in Minneapolis. There's a lot of buildings were burned to the ground. Right, we're still recovering from that. We still have problems related to that, and the local election was a very important one, and I personally studied the issues and voted my conscience on that, and but it affects life much more than the presidential election does.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't know the difference, but I mean, we all do focus on it because it's the, on top of the castle, the top of the pyramid. I always wonder, about that.
I don't think that. Yeah, I think the president can set large issues, but I really do think that local politics are going to be the most immediate impact on any person's life, and that people should pay more attention to local politics than to national politics. I don't think it would have made any bit of difference if I had voted. Let's say I voted the way I did locally in here, the state and city, and let's say we keep that the same, but instead I had voted for Trump. It would have made the national election makes no difference. My single vote would be insignificant, but locally, the difference is considerable.
Gotcha.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think local elections are important.
Yeah, we all do tend to ignore them. I know, at least in my area, it's a complete losing battle because I am a tiny, tiny, tiny minority, and there's not even like democratic options.
So when do you think the AI overlords are going to take over?
Yes.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully,
are you around here?
I'm not so sure.
I mean, just the burden of having to participate in running all this stuff. It's like they're either going to do it well or death, and it's just like maybe those are.
Maybe they'll just
keep us around. By the way,
maybe they'll just keep us as pets in a petting zoo.
Yeah. Yeah, like any sufficiently intelligent creature is going to learn that a cooperative strategy is the most successful.
Oh, that's so much faith. You really believe that?
No.
It's an option.
It seems to be that that is what our current understanding points to. definitely not saying that that is the case. They could totally just extinguish us because that's also a successful strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
And it matters on how you measure success and like what your goal is that you're trying to achieve.
How about this? Or humans just can't be spacefaring. Our biology is such that we just can't adapt to life in space, but robots certainly can. So there could be a future where artificial life populates the rest of the solar system, but we're here on Earth, maybe some people on Mars. But even then, that's people forget in that movie The Martian, he wouldn't have lasted because the radiation on Mars is intense. So it could be that the future life is humans left here on Earth, and our children, our AI children, go out to conquer the universe that we can't because we are biologically stuck here on Earth.
Interesting science fiction thoughts. I mean, we could also, become bionic or something, and then we could modify ourselves to maybe be better
cyborgs.
Yeah.
Which we are already, right? Like people have robotic arms and pacemakers and all sorts of medical implants. Like we're already cyborgs. Just when we get to the level where we start to have that brain-computer interface.
Yeah.
If it ever happens, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to disconnect. Okay, because
all right,
yeah,
completely out of topics.
It was a pleasure again.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling in, Brenda.
Oh. Well, Brenda was a lovely caller.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
I really enjoyed the honest reflection they had, and there was the updating of the belief, and I think that's the important part about street epistemology, and it made me think as well too about my particular views.
Yeah, I think that was one of my issues, was that I have too many views regarding that topic, so it kind of made it more difficult to talk about without sharing my own views. So
I wonder, maybe that would have been a good question to ask Brenda, if if I seemed neutral, or if she could have guessed my position on any of the claims. Dang it, Brenda, if you're listening, come back. so I can ask you. Because that's one thing I do like to do after doing an SE session is is there any questions you would like to ask me, or about the claim or whatever?
Yeah, we could develop just a little bit of a script here to make sure that we cover the bases we want to cover. Like claim, confidence level, definitions, and then any questions for us, and then something like could they guess our position? I like asking that too. I think that's a really important one. We have an old friend back in the comment section.
Yeah, what's going on?
They were the same people from last week. Do you remember?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Have we ever brought them on? Have you ever talked with them?
I mean, we could. I think I offered for them to come up last time, but I think we got rid of them pretty quickly.
Okay.
There may be some other things going on here that would make us ill-equipped to have that conversation. But
okay,
I'm always open for a challenge, but I'll leave it up to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have experience on it, so I think I'll take your opinion. I guess, yeah. Though we don't have any other callers at the moment, so if you're watching, please give us a call. We all have beliefs and opinions about things, and we love to talk to people about their beliefs and opinions. We're not going to badger you or force you to say anything you don't want to say. So.
Yeah, and pretty here soon, I think we're gonna have a new platform that's really gonna streamline this. So that should be good. Wait for that. Probably by next week, hopefully, we can make these things happen. So that should change things.
When is it? Is it next? Well, next Sunday we're going to be doing the stream again. Did you pick out a topic for next Sunday?
I think it's going to be the age of the universe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's what's next on the list. So I'll give you that list so you can see it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, same time, same place. We'll do that, and then I think we're doing the review show. I just saw it in the SE Discord server. And if you guys aren't already a member, there's the Street Epistemology Discord server. Let's see, we're going to be doing the review show on Saturday, February 10th at 2000, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, so that's 2 weeks away.
Wait, what was that on the 25th?
On the 10th.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Saturday, February 10th, we're going to be doing the SE review show, where we're actually going to be reviewing one of my videos to see how well I did SE IRL. Yeah.
We could probably do some of these now. Some of the ones we've had. They're a bit longer, though.
Some of the what?
Some of the conversations we've had in the live show.
Oh, yeah.
But they're pretty long, so I don't know if it would be worth going through them.
Yeah. Did you think of the topic you wanted to talk to me about that you had brought up at the beginning of the show?
I got closer. I know.
Closer.
Yeah. We were talking about well-being and suffering too. I think just the idea that you had about like there not being good or bad or right or wrong.
Yeah.
And then I remember saying I use well-being and suffering, even though there are a bunch of issues there. And then that's as far as I got. And I thought of really good counter examples to what you were saying that I wanted to ask questions about, but now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I mean, well-being can be a good metric, right? And that metric being, whatever is physically or mentally good health for the person by the judgment of the person, right? But that still requires judgment, and there's even times that intersubjectively or a group of people would agree that that's not necessarily well-being, and that would be a problem, is using that metric. I like to use the goal, which is based on the observation that we as a species, or any species or living organism, tends to continue to persist, right? And if you don't continue to persist, you'll go extinct. So that seems to be the goal to me, is to gather information in order to make more accurate prediction of reality, and to in an attempt to continue existing. Whether or not that is true or the goal, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I can remember is that you brought up some example, like maybe we were talking about, I think at one point we were talking about smoking, and that like what is good for maybe people, it's just like is damaging to the
the
smoking
company. What harm, right? So like measurement of harm, and how do you evaluate harm? So if you have the company, like it was that produces cigarettes, and we phased them out as a country, thank you, and that was it reduced the amount of harm, but for who? Right? Well, the people that stopped getting cancer. But what about perhaps if you looked at it from the view of the people that owned the cigarette company, right? Or the stockholders that lost money, or perhaps the workers that lost their job, and perhaps some of them even starved to death. So, like, how do you make a measurement of harm, and from whose perspective, right? That's what it comes down to. Yeah. So there has to be a goal and then a way to measure towards that goal.
Yeah, yeah. So the answer is that it's not really easy to do. Doesn't mean we shouldn't try to do it, but it is. We need to keep in mind the complications and the corollary effects, and it's not quantifiable, right? So we kind of have to give up that idea too. Why do you think there's a goal?
I don't know that there is a goal, right? I'm just saying that it seems as though, like, making an observation that could be the goal, right? That, like, we continue on to persist. I mean, like, I don't want to die, and I know most people don't want to die. So, like, I can myself set a goal, and it seems as though, as intersubjectively, we all set this own goal, then that's possibly the goal. But whether there is a goal or not, no idea. Totally agnostic to that. What are your thoughts?
It's pretty much the same, yeah. The same way, yeah. There is no, yeah. We were talking about like subjectivity, and it's like, and this conversation's been, people have been talking about it in the SC Discord server a lot, and my position has kind of been like, I don't really care so much that it's subjective. Like, I'm fine with that idea that it's subjective and not objective. And it's like one, and I've talked about this before too, but we're kind of already using axioms to build even things that we think are objectively true anyway. So to me, it's like, if I use the idea of well-being and suffering, then it's not that big of a deal, though I do have to keep in mind that it's not quite the same thing. And yeah, I don't know. It's just not, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really bother me that it's subjective and not objective too much. And ultimately, I think it's interesting because if you talk to most people, it's just like, what makes heaven, right? She's like, well, it's usually the lack of suffering. It's being in the presence of some divine being that is the essence of well-being. And then, what makes hell is kind of it's absolute suffering for eternity, right? So these ideas seem to be embedded in us in a pretty fundamental level that we can kind of utilize it to, once we have it, we can say, okay, what data can we gather to conclude whether or not a certain action or behavior will result in an increase or decrease in well-being, something like that.
But, like, what other choice do we have, right? Without more information, we can't make other judgments. But hey, Abe's joining us here. Well, thank you. Let's add him to stage. Not sure my mic is working. Well, hi, Abe. Is it mic check? Mic check. We can't hear you yet.
Oh, a little bit.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
Welcome. Yeah, you're loud and clear.
How's it going?
Pretty well.
Sorry, Australian. So if I say anything that you guys don't understand, pull me up. Because a bit of a different accent, obviously, and we don't speak English like you guys do.
Sounds
good. I love the accent. So
good stuff.
Talk as much as you like.
All right. So the Big Bang's fake. No,
Okay.
False. The Big Bang's false. We'll say it's false. The only evidence we have for the Big Bang is when you do the maths backwards from the expansion rate, or lambda CDM. That is the only way we guess at how old the universe is as such, and also how we come to the idea that the Big Bang even occurred. And even then, it's only because our math stops at 0 and starts doing weird things, like the same as for black holes.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah. So, so the claim the Big Bang is false, how confident would you say that you are in that claim?
50%.
Okay, 50%.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess another question that I have is what's kind of the threshold for belief or not belief? Like if it was 49%, would you not believe it? Or is anything above 1% something that you believe?
Yeah, good question. I think of 50% probably as the threshold. But obviously still displaying how much doubt I have. So I could be convinced to believe that it was a real thing, but I have not seen anywhere near enough evidence to accept it as the answer when we don't have an answer.
Okay.
It reminds me of the humors. Do you know about the humors?
I don't actually. Would you mind explaining it?
Yeah. So your humors were like bile. Oh, actually, since I got Google open, I can. What were
It was like your fluids.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
It was stuff: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. And that was the 4 things that they used to use for medical treatment prior to medical knowledge. That was 100% believed by everyone who studied medicine at the time, and it was used to create medical treatments. So I think what I'm trying to say is when you have limited knowledge, I don't think you should be confident in how you come to an answer, such as the Big Bang.
Got you. Yeah, that makes sense on the face of it. Yeah. So the idea is that you don't think we have enough knowledge to be really that we don't have enough knowledge to really have any confidence that it is true.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Have you heard of the crisis in cosmology?
Again, I don't think
No?
I have.
Okay. Well, the crisis in cosmology is that we have 3 different measuring systems for the age of the universe. The first one being the microwave background radiation. That was from reionization. So we can say for sure that the universe reionized, because everywhere we point our radios and telescopes, when you turn the TV on, old TVs, if you're old enough for that, sorry, there was fuzz. That fuzz was part of the cosmic microwave background radiation. And we measure the age of that, and that tells us how old the universe is. Another one we do is we use something called standard candles. And so one of the primary standard candles being a type 1a supernova. When they explode, their brightness is a reflection of their size and how far away they are. And so we use them to judge how much expansion has occurred, giving us the age of the universe. And none of them line up with the maths. So we don't know.
Gotcha.
So that's why I'm only at 50%, because some evidence could come out that proves 100% that, in fact, the universe did start at an infinitesimally small point at 10 to the minus 38 seconds. Expansion started occurring, and that's where our maths begins, sort of thing. But yeah, so that's my stance. Yeah.
So just quick clarifying question, if I could.
Yep.
So you're saying that the Big Bang itself, you're 50% off, but there's still evidence for the expansion part?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
So I just want to go back over the first one. The first thing that you said is that it's kind of like backwards math, or like we're using math.
Yeah.
But okay. All right, and that's what you were
That
saying.
was the first way we measured it to be what was it, 14 billion at the time, and then the CMB changed it to 16, and then the standard candles changed to 14 or something. And so now we actually just go for the middle, which is none of them, but they all don't agree on how old the universe is. And it just gets worse every time we get a new measurement.
Got you. So I think you said that there were 3 ways. One, you said the microwave background radiation, right? And then you talked about standard candles. Is there a third one that
maths. It was the maths that we started with. Yeah.
Oh,
so the very first people to figure out that there was a beginning to our universe, they did it through maths. They did the maths backwards until the maths broke.
Oh, okay. Got you.
And that's how they realized something was funky. And that same breaking occurs at a black hole when we do the maths for black holes.
Okay. Is that like the Planck length? Is that
no, but the Planck length is awesome and interesting. But yeah, it's like basically it's the minimum size energy can fit in. If you try and put more energy into a space smaller than the Planck length, you apparently create a black hole. But it's just physically not possible anyway, the way saturation works. So yeah, Planck length is really, really cool.
Okay. Did you have a question, Sushi, before I...
Nope, keep going.
Okay. So one of the questions that I have is, hold on. So crisis in cosmology. So what do you think, and it sounds like you've researched this a lot, which is really good. So you'll probably be better at imagining this than I could. What do you think the response to, like, say the average cosmologist, what do you think their average response would be to this argument? If you had to,
well, the majority probably still go with the Big Bang, but there is growing support for concepts. Although they annoy me. There's such concepts as the Big Bounce, and all that does is, do you know about panspermia and all that? So it kicks the can down the road. So that goes the same for the Big Bounce. All it does is says that it hit a minimum, if you'd want to call it the previous incarnation of our universe, hit a minimum size and then bounced back out. And that's what we're experiencing now. And then it'll move out to a maximum size where you'll get like a thermal equilibrium across the entire universe, possibly called heat death. Or is that one called heat death? Or is that called, I forget, whichever one. Anyway,
right.
Yeah. And then from there, you have a contraction again, because there's no force, because technically-ish energy doesn't have weight. So it pulls itself back based on the fundamental properties that it interacts with. So you have gravity, magnetism, strong force, and weak force. And those forces are still applied even when it's dispersed to its maximum dispersion. So it does make a level of sense. And it's funny for a creature that lives probably about 80 years to try and imagine the concept of several 100 billion year old or even trillion year old universe contracting back in on itself to bounce again. I think that's fun, but it gives no more answer than the Big Bang does. And that's my sticking point. Until anyone can give me something that shows enough evidence, I can't accept any of them as true. So that's why I'll sit probably at the 50% for every option that cosmologists come up with right now.
Got you. Okay. Are there any other reasons besides those two, or would you just want to stick to the math and the crisis in cosmology?
For me, I believe that it is probably just the information itself. I am an information junkie, so if I find the information, it'll excite the shit out of me. Oh, sorry for swearing.
No, you're all right.
All right. It would excite me to no end. But yeah, at this point, nothing has been offered. And I think an important point too is that a lot of cosmologists speak about the crisis in cosmology. So the fact is that it is being thought about and talked about and hopefully understood. I'm not the person that's going to understand that though. I'm too old. I will let someone else understand it and then tell me about it. And then I'll see if that fits in with all the other information.
Gotcha. So do you think that most cosmologists, if you had to guess, do understand the crisis in cosmology?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
most, if not all of them, should. And it'd be like, I think if you even Google crisis in cosmology at the moment and go pictures, what have we got? Images. It should show. No, I'm not getting it. Oh, there. So it'll show a chart with time and a blue area and a red area, and that's those two methods of measuring separating. They're getting further and further apart as people get better at understanding the crisis in cosmology. So it'll look like probably a sideways table is the best option for seeing the data.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now.
Yeah.
Okay. You said there's like a blue. Yeah, I think I'm seeing it.
Yeah. So you can see, so the blue areas are the possible error. Okay. So at one point in time, the blue and red overlapped. But you see, as our measurement methods get better and we get more knowledgeable and the errors get smaller, they're separating further and further. So that is a visualization of the crisis in cosmology for you.
Okay. So basically, if that wasn't there, you would have more confidence in the Big Bang. Is that the idea?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Got you. And then are these the only two ways that we actually measure this? Or are these the only two ways that you know of?
I believe there is possibly a third method, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. The two that I mainly focused on were, the two main ones I focused on were those two in that chart, which was one was standard candles and the other was the cosmic microwave background radiation.
Okay, got you. And then so I only have, I think, one more question. And by the way, you're already like past me on a lot of this. I know some of the stuff you're talking about, but a lot I don't. So,
but that's the beauty of this method, isn't it? Street epistemology. We can talk about any topic. It's cool.
Yeah, that is why I like it. Yeah, and I don't feel the need to, because I don't really care whether or not it is true or false. I would like to know which one it is. So I guess the question is, if I'm talking, let's say, to a cosmologist tomorrow, and they're under the impression that the Big Bang does exist, how can I distinguish between what they're saying and what you're saying? How do I come to figure out which one I should accept and not accept? If that question,
you could probably make them laugh by saying, "What about the big bounce?"
Okay.
Because that's the can kicking one. Because it just means when did the universe start before that universe, before that, and so on. But look, I think if you just ask them to explain the Big Bang, how would I say it? Their understanding of the Big Bang in reference to the crisis in cosmology, I think most of them would probably be willing to admit that there's a lack of not useful data, because it's still useful. It's not lining up at the moment. They'll admit it's not lining up. I'm pretty sure. Do you know Dr. Becky at all?
I don't.
I love Dr. Becky. She's amazing.
Yeah. So she talks extensively about the crisis in cosmology. So if you want to know more, there's a spot to go.
I will definitely look that up.
She
I need
is like on it. Smart cookie.
Yeah, I need
She's
to
so passionate too.
Yeah, I love that. Do you know what I
Mhm.
do hate though? When she sings, it annoys me. Her voice, like that
Oh,
singing.
really?
I
Aw.
know, yeah, it's pretty sad, eh? But I've been near a lot of explosives in my life, so my hearing's wrecked, and
yeah.
it's actually even funny. Like, my son had his friends over, but one of his friends, his voice is in the pitch that I can't hear at this point in my life. And so he talked to me several times, and I kept having to look at my son and say, "What is he saying?" Which is just an awful thing to do to a teenage boy. But yeah, still sitting down and trying to tell a kid, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry, your voice is just in the wrong pitch for me to hear you now."
Yeah. I'm having
Uncomfortable.
those issues too, so I can totally empathize there. I used to work next to jet engines and
Yep. So yeah, isn't it
so
wild? That's and you feel bad because like you want to listen to the person, but their words are just in that wrong area of your hearing.
yeah. Yeah. I think I do actually have one more question though, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I guess it is. So, do you have an explanation for why so many cosmologists accept this, um, despite the
It's the
fact that?
most evidence we have. That's,
Oh,
I
okay.
think, sorry to cut you off there.
No. You answered
Yeah,
it.
it's like all evidence points to something happening 14 billion years ago ish. So this universe our current incarnation of the universe came into existence around that time somewhere. From what and how, probably, I don't know if we'll ever be able to say, to be honest. I think we would certainly have to get a lot smarter. And I don't think time will fix it. I think it needs someone like an Einstein, someone with just the brain to see it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just posting a link really quick. So, can you think of would it be one more piece of evidence, or like how much evidence should we expect before or what type of evidence before we really say, okay, we need to accept this now, for you, in your opinion?
I think evidence. I think this is where it's going to be hard because any form of evidence is probably well. It comes down to, is it repeatable, testable, and measurable, and does it agree with all the other evidence, which is the big flaw we're having at the moment. But I mean, there's still stuff like the understanding of voids. Like there was a size limit to voids previously. There's no structure that could be bigger than X. I forget what the size was. But since JWST and Hubble before that, we've found voids that are bigger than that. So what we have is lots of a lack of clear knowledge, I think. Yeah.
Got you. So issue with correspondence, it sounds like, to some degree.
Yeah. It's I wonder, and this is speculative, but so time runs slower in a gravitational field. But since we don't have any measurement of time in a void, I wonder whether the understanding of how time interacts with a void where there's low gravity, whether that will give us, whether that will make maybe standard candles line up with the CMD, cosmic microwave background radiation.
Okay. So it sounds like you've thought of some ways that it could work out, and it just hasn't.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't been studied enough, really. That's like, if you you got to look at 20 or 30 years beyond the first discovery of an object. And so it's funny, an empty space is an object, which I love. But yeah. And like, I wonder about neutrino saturation in that space too, because that doesn't interact with gravity or the strong force or anything like that too. So it has limited interactivity. And so what is your neutrino saturation in a void, especially if time is altered? But yeah,
Gotcha.
Anyway, speculation.
Yeah. So the idea was that they're accepting this because this is what has the most evidence, right?
Yeah. It's all evidence points towards that. The Big Bang was actually an insult. So the first guy that figured out expansion, the other dude telling him that the universe was steady state mocked it as what, a Big Bang, and then it just caught on. And it shouldn't even, like a lot of scientific channels that even display it, show it as an explosion. And that's not the case. It's just everything everywhere expanded at once. So, yeah.
I did know that. I just went with the Big Bang because it's kind of more well known.
It's the known word, yeah.
But so then why, if you could, and I know I'm asking you to get in people's heads, and I apologize for this, but it's just fun thinking. Like, why don't they take the agnostic position, which it sounds like something close to what you're doing here? Why not just take the I don't know?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? But humans do that quite often, really. So I guess I'm not surprised when I see it.
Got you. So to you, this is just a human something.
Yeah. Well, that's all religions come from that concept, don't they? You got enough evidence to point at something, then you go, okay, every time I touch the mammoth tusk on my way out, I don't die. Keep touching the mammoth tusk. You know, I think it's a human trait for most humans. Maybe mine's broken.
And then, so this is just something that the cosmologists are falling prey to as humans.
I think it's possible. I think there's not enough. Yeah, like as I said, like I think they might find evidence that supports that this is, the one and only universe that expanded. I mean, one scientist I was reading about recently thought that maybe the voids were impacts with other universes, and I'm not a multiverse person because I don't think that solves anything. Again, it just sort of kicks the can in a different direction. But even exploring those ideas is important. And I think I'm glad that she's doing that research.
Yeah, I've seen that too. And I've also seen and I didn't know this, but apparently the second law of thermodynamics, people think that it's like an absolute when it's an average. And so this idea that entropy doesn't sometimes decrease is actually incorrect. It's a probability. So there is some probability that entropy could randomly
increase or decrease or
at some
but
point.
Over time, in general, entropy increases.
Right. And so it's just like, so then that's another possibility, is that our universe could be a local universe in which that occurred. But it's just another postulation that there's no, I don't know how we would know that,
that's the thing. We are inside the universe, so attempting to understand anything outside the universe is kind of, I don't know, for me, bunk science, to be honest, to a degree. I think doing the thought experiments is important, but attempting to create formal knowledge of stuff that we have no way to measure is difficult. And probably
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you either. But I am, Sushi, have you thought anything since then? Do you have any questions? Because that's pretty much it for me.
No, I was just just a couple of notes about the the delineation between Big Bang and the expansion, right? Yeah. which I think is like we had clarified early on, and that's why I'd asked the questions like you believe in the expansion of the universe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing that science. The other thing is that science does that religion doesn't, because you had touched onto that. Is like, well, we fill in those gaps and we come to a belief, but most scientists usually don't say, well, this is 100% true. They say, with
That's true.
5 sigma or 8 sigma, like
Yes.
this, yeah, like we have a high degree of confidence, and that's all you can come to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's honestly half the time it's the science media that actually, like, they take something that's 3 sigma and they act like it's a 7 sigma, like it's been like, it's close to confirmed, and 3 sigma is not good.
Well, you say that, but when it comes to astrophysics, 3 sigma is usually the threshold for
Which is yucky.
confidence. Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to work with, right?
It is.
Yeah,
but we're getting better. We're getting more telescopes out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the what's it called? I honestly can't. The Solar Observatory. I can't think of the name. That one is doing some amazing science at the moment.
I'm not following that one. Look that one up.
Solar Observatory.
Yeah, the Large Magellan Telescope and the Very Large Telescope, I think that's what it is.
VLT,
yeah. What a creative name it is.
I know, right? It's just epic.
Yeah.
That's I would have preferred them to call it the Ugly Grasshopper or something.
Yeah, would have been more attractive.
Scientists like keeping it simple,
Yeah.
Everything to be named simple.
No, I gotta have some fun in it. So the Very Large Makeup Mirror would have been more fun.
Oh yeah, that would be.
Wouldn't that have people talking? Oh yeah, we're using the Very Large Makeup Mirror to see if we can yeah. Joy.
Yeah. I think I was trying to think of another question, but now I'm
good.
Pretty tapped out. It seems like, I mean, you thought about it a lot.
How confident are you in the expansion of the universe?
I'd put that at 99%. There's still 1% chance that we're wrong, so I'm not gonna give it a hungy. But I think there's more than enough evidence for the expansion anyway. Well, actually, no. Let's drop that to 97, because I wonder sometimes whether it's an optical artifact or not. Unless we're reading gravitational waves too. Telescope. Oh, am I?
Yep, your audio is dropping,
cutting out.
You're cutting in and out.
It's a bit of an old microphone.
There you go. Oh, you're back now. At least for now.
For now. Well, I might tap out actually. I think yous did me good. Yous were really gentle, so
thanks for the discussion. Give me a lot to look up. That's what I appreciate. Like, I got some research to do now.
Yeah, and don't forget to look up if you want a really good news channel. Well, not just Dr. Becky, but Anti-War News. That'll get you up to date. They are even. I wouldn't be surprised if the dude does street epistemology, because he lays out, this is what this person said, this is what that person said, this person has more evidence. And he does that for almost all the ones where there's, contested information. So, Anti-War News with Dave DeCamp.
Anti-War News. Yeah, thank you for that information, because, I had a discussion with somebody about this. Like, I've been trying to find information on the whole Israel-Palestine, and like, when looking, all I find is news headlines, and I literally don't know what to do with the information, because like I can't find any valid sources.
Yeah,
it's like, I understand that there's bad stuff going on, but like what and how and who's involved, and
I think what are they called? Katie Halper, I think her name is. She's a Jewish woman that went over the ICJ ruling, and her belief is that ruling clearly outlines that if they continue, it will be considered genocide, and they have continued. The death rate is still between 170 and 250 civilians per day, and it's been going for what, 100 and something, 120 days or 110 days or something. And that's still, they've been unable to return to the north to find their families under the rubble. So that death toll is just going to go up.
I thought there was a sanction for them for a ceasefire, but I just read the news headline, so it probably
they were talking about a 6-week stop, but I think that was because Israel planned to fight Hezbollah in Lebanon. But now Hezbollah, now they're sort of backing down, so they're still just bombing civilians in Gaza instead of. I've worked with their special forces. I probably shouldn't say that. They are spot on. They are skilled. They could have gone in and got those hostages out early days, and they didn't, which tells me personally that I believe that it is for the goal of genocide. That's.
I'd heard something similar too about special forces. So
yeah, man, they're on it. They're special forces, top notch, and they didn't use them. So it raises questions.
I have one more question before you go, if you don't mind. I just thought it. So it's back on the original topic. So I think that the thing that you are disagreeing with, or the thing that you're saying we shouldn't take a position on, is the idea that all of the material in the universe was in like a hyperdense space.
Yes, we have no evidence of what happened before our mass breaks down at 10 to the minus 38 seconds.
Right. So how confident are you? So you agree that it's expanding. How confident are you that everything was closer together, let's say even like 1 million years ago?
Yeah, well, it would have been 1 million years closer, depending on your local impact of gravity. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Based on the lambda CDM, obviously, the expansion rate. But yeah, so look, I think that 10 to the minus 38 seconds too, that is just the maths that goes there. That's what I wanted to say earlier, sorry. So we don't have evidence for that, but that's the only evidence we have, is the maths goes wonky at that point. And to me, that's not enough evidence to say what happened at that point or before that point. So yeah, that's about it, really.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll leave you to it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, cheers, guys. It was good fun.
Hope to talk to you later.
Bye.
All right. Brilliant.
Okay.
Sounds like he's done some research into this.
Yep.
I've definitely watched a lot of content on the Big Bang or the Grand Expansion, or just science news in general. A couple of different YouTube channels I follow, but it's too much information to fully understand it all. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we were in agreement already, because it's like usually when I'm thinking about like, quote unquote, the Big Bang, I'm more interested in the idea that the universe was closer together at one point. How close it was together, it might be a different thing, but I'm usually going off of the fact that it is expanding at a certain rate, and we have the microwave background radiation. So, or I guess maybe that would have been a question, because isn't the idea behind the microwave background radiation that is like that energy happens in a very condensed, like it's the result of objects being very condensed?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I forget. I haven't looked into the CMB in a while, but yeah, I think you did a pretty good job with it. It's for me, it's always hard to get down into to empirical claims like that. When you're basing it on data, and especially when you're at an agnostic position, like 50% like that.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with the reasonability there. It seems like
Mhm.
something that doesn't seem like a position that is necessarily anti-science, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
What are they saying? Reionization. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know it's pretty late to me, and I need a bio break. I think it was great.
Yeah. Thanks,
Uh,
Sushi. Thanks everybody that came in to listen and talk. It was great. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the cringy things now, so I apologize. But like and subscribe and all that other stuff,
Or
I'm
don't
gonna
do
yeah,
that.
or don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about what you want to believe. Should you do it, and what's your confidence level that you should do it. SE yourself before you make the decision.
Yeah, and while you're debating on that, make sure to debate on whether or not you should join us next week for the show. Yeah. Or if you want to talk to us after the show or another time, join the Street Epistemology Discord server, which I guess would be good for me to share the link to that while I'm speaking of it.
Yeah, go ahead. And like I said, I think the format's going to change just a little bit next week. So we may be in the politics Discord server. We already are, but it might change and there'll be more interaction. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for everybody joined us, and thanks for everybody that watching us. We will see you next week.
Have a great night.
Bye. What button are you pushing the button?
I'm pushing.